Hello everyone, I am Marabane Zolopin. I'm with my co-teachers who will introduce themselves later. Today we are going to focus on stress management, life orientation, grade 12. The purpose of this lesson is for you grade 12 to understand what is a stress, types of stress, causes of stress, identifying stressors, signs and symptoms of stress, levels of stress, and coping mechanisms.
Hello learners, it's Mr. Malopi here. Today's lesson is about stress management. Okay, now the purpose of today's lesson is that learners should know and be able to manage stress. We have chosen this topic because grade 12s usually suffer from stress because of the examination pressure, and that in other schools matric is only given a single chance. Right now, the outcome of today's lesson is that learners will be able to define what is stress. This means that learners will know what is stress. They will be able to explain what is stress. Secondly, they will be able to identify the two different types of stress. Okay, which means learners will be able to identify the two types of stress and how do these stress differ. Right. Thirdly, the learners will be able to identify and explain the levels of stress. We have three types of the levels of stress. Okay. Fourthly, the learners will be able to identify the causes of stress. They will know what causes stress and how to refrain from stress. Okay. Fifthly, of which is the last, learners will know the methods of dealing with stress. They will be able to know the measures they can take in order to reduce their stress levels or to cope with the stress that they are facing. Thank you.
Okay, what is a stress? A stress is what we feel in a situation we find difficult or challenging. It is when we feel we can't cope with the situation. For examples, grade 12s are now writing their trial examination. Some they have stress because they didn't prepare, while some they have a stress because they can't cope with the situation. Stress is a feeling of emotional or physical tension. It is a body reaction to a challenge or demand. Also, stress can be defined as an physical, emotional, or mental tension caused by external circumstances. And someone can say it's a strong feeling of worry or produce changes in mind or body. Examples of stresses: failing exam. Failing exam can be stressful because you are scared of repeating the same grade. The death of the loved ones, and emotional problems such as anger, anxiety, and low self-esteem. Okay, there are two types of stress, which is eustress and distress. Eustress is a positive stress, while distress is a negative stress. A positive stress is a stress that motivates you, pushes you, and makes you ready for action and gives you energy. It's a stress that benefits your health and your emotional well-being. The example of positive stress is when you want to perform or speak in front of people because you are excited. You want to do the task, but at the same time you are nervous. But after completing the task, everything just go back to normal. That's a positive stress. Negative stress is one that exceeds a personal resource that renders them incapable of coping with the situation and can have a negative impact on the body. It is a stress that you can't cope with, and it's unhealthy because you can be ill, unhappy, and depressed. A stress becomes negative if a person faces continuous challenges without a relief or relaxation between the challenges. And someone can define negative stress as anything that causes you to be unhealthy and can cause you ill. Anything that can cause you unhappy can cause negative stress. Negative stress can affect your body in different ways. Here is the diagram that shows how negative stress can affect the body.
Good day, learners. My name is Latam Matala, but you guys can call me Miss Matala. So I'm going to be teaching you guys about the levels of stress. We have 3 levels of stress, which is the low level, an average level, and the high level. So now let's talk about a low level of stress, right? So a low level of stress means that you are able to cope with your stress. Okay? So you are able, or you have the power to cope with the stress that you have in your life. Then an average level of stress means that you are still coping with the stress, but that certain stress, that certain thing that stresses you needs an attention, needs you to give it an attention so you could deal with it before it becomes unmanageable. And then we move on to the high level of stress. A high level of stress means that you urgently have to apply stress management methods to get rid or to reduce the stress or whatever that is stressing you, or rather what causes your stress. So now let me try to furthermore explain those things, right? So with an average level of stress, it means that the stress that you have in your life is not really something that can make you want to do certain things that you're supposed to do in your life, like taking drugs, like thinking of suicide, like doing all those kind of things. You can name them, right? It means that the stress that you have in your life, you are still coping with it. It's not really that low. It's not really something that makes you sleep at night, but it's something that you can cope with. It's something that you can still continue living your life as normal as you would have years back when you didn't have stress at all, right? But then it doesn't mean you have to sit down and relax and say, my stress is still fine. I'm not to a stage where I have to urgently apply stress management methods. You still need to give it an attention. You need to give it an attention so you could manage it, so you could kind of reduce it a little bit before it becomes unmanageable. Because that's one thing that we all have to ignore. We all have to ignore having this lot of stress that you cannot manage, because it might change how you live your life. It might change the way you think, the way you see things, right? So now let's go to a low level of stress. So a low level of stress is a stress that you are able to cope with. It's a stress that doesn't really have such an impact in your life. It's more like writing an exam. You can cope with that stress. It's more like going for an interview. You can cope with that kind of stress. Do you guys understand? I hope so. So a low level of stress can be you thinking about this big game of your life, you thinking about a soccer match, you thinking about a report that you have to represent to your classmates. That's the stress that you can cope with, right? Right. So a high level of stress, this is a stress where you urgently need help. You urgently need to start applying stress management methods. You urgently have to learn how to manage the stress, how to reduce it, or rather, how to get rid of whatever that is stressing you. This stress could be how did you call it when you in debt, when you can't afford certain things, when your parents get divorced, or when your health is at risk. Such things can cause you mental health, can disturb your mental health, can send you to a hospital, can make you think of suicide, can make you think of taking drugs. So remember, guys, we don't need certain stress in our lives. Because that has a huge impact in our lives, right? Can you please move to the causes of stress? We've been talking about the levels of stress, we've been talking about types of stresses, we've been talking about the stress, but now the main question is what causes your stress, right? So there's so many things that cause stress, or that can bring stress to one's life. Things like unemployment, financial problems, anxiety, depression, natural disaster, parents' divorce, or studying for an exam, right? Or working pressure. So now, I'm so sorry about the noise. So now, learners, I want us to look at how each of this that I've mentioned could stress you. So, guys, for example, unemployment. Unemployment can cause you a lot of stress, leading to a high level of stress because you'd be financially unstable. You won't be having money, meaning you won't have the basic things that you need to survive, such as food. You won't be able to pay for a shelter, rent. You can't pay for your children's school fees, or you can't even buy clothes. So that could cause a stress in your life, could give you anxiety, could give you a lot of stress, could make you want to commit suicide, could make you want to take drugs or even abuse alcohol.
Good day, grade 12 learners. This is Mem Kadima Shaba, and we are focusing on identifying stressors. Now, we have to understand what is a stressor. A stressor is an agent, a stimulus, or an event that causes stress. So simply means stressors are things that causes you stress. Di-stressor ke dilo tšeo e le gore ke tšona tšeo di bakelang gore o be le stress. Now, you have to understand that we have different kinds of stressors. We have emotional, physical, social, and environmental stresses. These stresses have an effect on your quality of life and how well you live. Factors that causes stress are often linked. For example, you may be physically ill if you live in a stressful environment. Also, illness is a stressor, which falls under physical stressor. Example of stressors, what can they be? Example of a stressor, it can be noises, nka ba leshata around ditulo tse o nnang gona, nka ba koloi e leng mo lebeleng, nka ba e le gore o ngwala test, or going on a blind date. Grade 12, going on a blind date, it can be a stressor because you can be stressed about. So it's a stressor. Now let's look at our 4 types of stresses, which is physical, emotional, social, and environmental. Firstly, what can be an example of a stressor? Physical. A factor, it can be abuse, which means a family member may beat you, abuse you in a certain way. And the effect of quality of life, it may be that those physical and emotional pain, loss of trust, fear, unable to focus on studies, it affects your life, right? Yes. Then we look at emotional. Emotional, it can be a life crisis. When you're going through a lot, maybe a death in a family, that can be an example of a emotional stressor. And what can be the effect on the quality of life? It can be that you are mourning, you have loneliness, you have unhealthy lifestyle, you have depression because of leso kogeno. Now, we also have social stressor. Social stressor, a factor, it can be social pressure, poverty, vocation. You understand? And then, what can be the example that falls under social stressor? It can be that peer pressure to do something you don't want to. Right? My grade 12 for peer pressure we know hore lena peer pressure ya le bolaya. So so peer pressure, it can be a social stressor. Ditšhomo tsa gago di bona di tsamaya ka Air Force. Yeah, they are vina, and you know very well who you don't have it, and your mom or your family, they can't buy it for you. Wa stress hore yo kaosane ria Moria, kaosane ria Gold Reef City, batho ba ilo apara. That's a stressor, right? Yes. And what can be the effect on the quality of life when you have peer pressure as a social stressor? It can be that you may harm yourself, you may end up in jail, you may even steal. Let's ka rata maka, cause wa itse hore mama ha wa ana yona tšhelete ho mara wena o hapeletsa hore a o rekele, and then a re yena ana tšhelete, then wena o tseya tšhelete ha wa iutswa, wena o tsamaya wa ilo rekela Air Force. So that is also a what? Effect on quality, and you may end up in jail because ba bangwe ba utswa. Okay, now the fourth one, which is environmental stress. Environmental stressor, I mean to say, sorry. Other environmental stressor, it can be the noise around the area. Right, hore ko koneng ko Mampoto ko tavern every Friday dia boa, and wena no o ngwala trial, and then Mampoto ko yena o phela a letsa. You can't focus on your studies when you want to read, when you want to study, cause ko ntle ba letsa Jezabel. Are you bakele stress into? Obvious, a wakela stress. And what can be the effect on quality of life? It may be that you may feel very tense, get headaches, become irritable, and unable to focus. As I said, unyokobala mampoto kwa yena ko taverning uletsa banyana ba ke bafana. Focus I think cause barasa kwa ntlane. Now, we have the signs and symptoms of stress. What are signs? Signs of stress are physical and can be seen or measured. Dilo tse re di bonang, tse o kgonang ho di bona hore tse di o bakela stress. Ke tsone di signs of stresses. Di symptoms ke dilo tse o goreng wa di feela hore tse di o bakela stress. Those are the problems that you notice or feel. Okay? What can be the examples are the signs? It can be that o tshwara ke di headache, o tswa di pimple. Like you guys know that stress also causes pimples, right? Yes. Or loss of weight. Tshwara ke weight, wa lose weight, o tshwara ke stress wa lose weight, I'm sorry. Yeah. And then the symptoms in the symptoms, it can be stomach aches, feeling tense, being unable to sleep, insomnia.
key symptoms of stress. Thank you, grade 12s.
Hello learners, it's Mr. Malopi here, your last teacher of the day, and I will be going through the concept of coping and managing stress. Alright, now what is it that you can do in order to cope with the stress that you are facing? As you are doing your final year, your matric, a lot of learners face stress, and some of them end up failing their examinations because they do not know what to do in order to keep their stress levels low. Okay, now one of the most prominent measure for you to cope with stress is through meditation. Okay, meditation comprises of thinking deeply, all right, especially for religious purposes or in order to make your mind calm. All right, as you can see that they say that in order to make your mind calm, and we all know that when you have stress, your mind, it is not calm, good people. Okay, I am pretty sure that you have seen a person somewhere, somehow, meditation. Okay, meditation can be seen mostly in Chinese movies. Okay, you would see a monk sitting down, crossed his legs, eyes closed. Okay, that process is called meditation. All right, now how can meditation assist you in order to cope and manage your stress? Okay, meditation is one of the natural methods of relieving stress. Simple deep breathing exercises can assist tremendously in relieving stress. Meditation helps to calm the mind. As I've said, good people, meditation calms your mind. And the better way to deal with the stress is to keep your mind calm. Now, secondly, exercising and eating healthy foods assist with your stress levels, good people. Eat healthy foods and exercise at least 3 times a day to reduce your stress levels. Stress does not require unhealthy foods, so you should eat foods like vegetables and fruits because they give you a lot of good vitamins and positive energy. Right. Thirdly, decrease negative self-talk, good people. Negative self-talk can be dangerous because it will only increase your stress levels because you wouldn't be doing anything positive in it. Okay, challenge negative thoughts about yourselves with alternative, neutral, or positive thoughts. Instead of saying, oh, let me just kill myself, I'm too pressured. No, better say, my life will get better. Okay, all right. Fourthly, avoid people who stress you out, good people. If someone consistently causes stress in your life and you cannot turn the relationship around, limit the amount of time you spend with that person or end the relationship entirely, good people. Okay, this is your life. You come first. You'll be writing your examinations alone, and remember that in matric like opened academic doors for you. Without matric, there's nowhere you go. So if someone causes you stress, cut them out, good people, or limit the time you spend with them, because if you continue living with them, good people, they'll cause you stress and you will never succeed. Okay, all right, learners, I'm pretty sure that what I have just said will assist you in managing your stress levels, and please continue living a healthy life. Thank you. Okay, learners, now it's time for the discussion. Remember, you have learned all the concepts relating to stress. Firstly, you've learned what is stress. You have learned different types of stress, of which it is your positive and your negative stress. You have learned what causes stress. You can identify your stresses. You know your signs and symptoms of stress. This is whereby you would get an idea if whether you are encountering stress or not, because you know the signs. If you have headache, you know that it is this kind of stress. All right. You've learned your levels of stress, of which it is your high level of stress, your average level of stress, and also your low levels of stress. Lastly, you have learned how to cope with your stress. What are the measures you should take in order to deal with your stress? Right. Now, I want you to find a partner whom you could share your experience, or someone you have seen suffering from stress, and therefore link that information with the concept we have learned today. Right. And for your activity, learners, use the information you got from your partner and answer the questions that follow. Number one, you should explain what is stress. Number two, what type of stressor has your partner experienced? What caused the stress, and at which level was the stress? All right. If you encounter the same stress as your partner, what is it that you could do to cope and manage the stress? That is your activity, learners. I'm really hoping to see you soon. All right. Have a great day. Thank you.